My mother-in-law wrapped divorce papers in a Tiffany box and gave them to me as a birthday gift, not as a joke, not as a misunderstanding. At my 30th birthday dinner, in front of my husband, she handed me that iconic blue box with a white ribbon, watched me open it with anticipation, and smiled as I pulled out a petition for dissolution of marriage that she'd already had filled out with my name. "Happy birthday, dear," she said. "I'm giving you the gift of freedom from my son. You're not good enough for this family, and it's time you accepted that." My husband sat there frozen, saying nothing. For 3 years, I'd endured Patricia's passive-aggressive comments about my working-class background, my state school education, my parents who were teachers instead of executives. But this was different. This was a declaration of war. What Patricia didn't know was that I was an event planner who specialized in high-end corporate functions. And in exactly 2 weeks, I'd be planning her 60th birthday party, a luxury event she'd been bragging about for months. She wanted elegant, sophisticated, memorable. She was about to get all three, just not in the way she expected. The Tiffany box sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days after my birthday dinner. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away, not because I wanted to keep the divorce papers, but because I needed the reminder. I needed to remember the look on Patricia Bradford's face when she'd handed it to me, the smug satisfaction in her smile, the certainty that she'd finally found a way to get rid of the daughter-in-law who wasn't good enough for her precious son. My name is Natalie Harper, though legally it's Natalie Bradford now, a name I'd taken with pride 3 years ago when I married Michael. I'm 30 years old, an event planner who built my business from scratch, specializing in high-end corporate functions and luxury private events. I'm good at what I do, really good. My clients include Fortune 500 companies, wealthy families, and occasionally people like Patricia Bradford who want their milestone birthdays to be talked about in their social circles for years to come. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, the daughter of 2 public school teachers. My childhood was comfortable but modest, nothing like the world Michael came from. We lived in a 3-bedroom ranch house, took family vacations to national parks, and my biggest luxury was getting name-brand sneakers instead of store-brand. I put myself through Ohio State University with a combination of scholarships, student loans, and working 3 part-time jobs. I graduated with a degree in hospitality management and moved to Chicago to start my career. That's where I met Michael at a corporate gala I was helping coordinate. He was funny, kind, down to earth despite coming from serious money. His father had made a fortune in commercial real estate, and the Bradford family name opened doors all over Chicago. But Michael worked as an architect at a firm he'd earned his way into, not one his family owned. He drove a reasonable car, lived in a normal apartment, and seemed embarrassed rather than proud when people recognized his last name. We dated for 2 years before he proposed, and for most of that time, I barely saw his mother. Patricia lived in Lake Forest, in a mansion that had been in the Bradford family for 3 generations. Michael's father had died 5 years before we met, and Patricia had transformed from devoted wife to keeper of the family legacy and arbiter of who was worthy of the Bradford name. I wasn't worthy, she made that clear from our first meeting. It was at a charity luncheon Patricia was hosting. Michael had insisted I come, wanting his mother to see how well we fit together. I'd worn my best dress, practiced conversation topics, researched Patricia's favorite charities. I thought if I was prepared enough, polished enough, I could make a good impression. Patricia had looked me up and down with an expression I'd come to know well over the next 3 years, polite on the surface, disdainful underneath. "Ohio State," she'd said when Michael mentioned where I went to college. "How nice. Michael's father and I both went to Yale, of course, as did Michael. But state schools serve an important purpose for those who couldn't. Well, you understand." That was her style. Never direct insults, always plausibly deniable, but the message was clear. You're not one of us, you never will be, and I will remind you of that at every opportunity. After we got engaged, it got worse. Patricia questioned every decision about the wedding. My dress was fine, if a bit simple. My choice of flowers was serviceable. My parents were charming in their way, which somehow sounded like an insult. She'd wanted us to get married at her country club, but Michael had stood firm on that one thing, insisting we have the wedding we wanted at a botanical garden I loved. But once we were married, Michael's spine seemed to dissolve. Every family dinner became an exercise in enduring Patricia's commentary about my career. Event planning, how creative, almost like being a party hostess. My clothes, you've always had such an interesting sense of style, dear. My family background, teaching is such noble work, even if it doesn't pay well. And Michael would just sit there, occasionally murmuring, "Mother, that's enough," but never actually defending me, never standing up to her the way he'd stood up about the wedding venue. What I didn't realize during those 3 years of enduring Patricia's subtle cruelty was that she'd been building towards something bigger, something designed to destroy my marriage, and that birthday dinner was the moment she'd finally decided to make her move. The dinner had been at Patricia's house, a formal affair she'd insisted on hosting, despite it being my birthday. 30 is such a milestone, she had said. You should celebrate it properly, not at some restaurant. Properly, she meant in her dining room, with her chef, following her rules of etiquette. Michael and I had arrived at 6 p.m., as instructed. Patricia's mansion always made me feel like I was being judged, from the marble foyer to the crystal chandeliers to the ancestral portraits glaring down from the walls. We'd been shown to the formal dining room where Patricia was already seated at the head of the table, dressed in pearls and a designer suit, despite this being a family dinner. "Natalie, dear, happy birthday," she'd said, with that smile that never reached her eyes. 30 years old. My goodness, how time passes. I remember when I was 30, already married to Bradford's father for 5 years, with Michael on the way. Everyone takes their own path, I suppose. The implication was clear. I was behind where I should be in life, married too late, still childless, still working instead of being a proper Bradford wife. Dinner had been excruciating. Patricia held court, talking about her upcoming 60th birthday party and how it would be the social event of the Lake Forest season. She'd hired me to plan it, not because she respected my work, but because Michael had insisted, arguing that I was the best in Chicago and his mother should have the best. "The party will need to be absolutely perfect, Val," Patricia had said, looking at me meaningfully. "Everyone who matters will be there. The Hendersons, the Blackwells, the entire country club board. I've waited years for this celebration. 60 is such an important milestone, and I want it to reflect the Bradford family's standing in the community." "I understand," I'd said. "I've already started on the initial concepts. I think you'll be very pleased." "I certainly hope so. This isn't one of your corporate events for technology companies, Natalie. This requires real sophistication, real elegance, the kind of thing that comes naturally to people from certain backgrounds." Michael had shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. I'd gripped my water glass and reminded myself that I was a professional, that I'd planned events for far more demanding clients than Patricia Bradford. Then came dessert and the gift. Patricia had brought out a beautiful birthday cake, chocolate with raspberry filling, exactly the kind I would have chosen for myself if anyone had asked what I wanted. For a moment, I'd thought maybe, just maybe, Patricia was trying to be kind on my birthday. "And now for your gift," she'd said, producing the Tiffany box from beside her chair. My heart had done a stupid, hopeful little jump. That iconic blue box meant jewelry, something expensive, maybe an olive branch. Michael had smiled, looking relieved that his mother was being generous. I'd untied the white ribbon carefully, opened the box, and pulled out the papers inside. It took my brain a moment to process what I was seeing. Not jewelry, not a gift certificate. Legal documents with "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage" printed at the top in official legal font. "What is this?" I'd asked, my voice not quite steady. "Your birthday gift, dear. I've taken the liberty of having divorce papers drawn up and filled out with all your information. All you need to do is sign them, and you'll be free. Free from a marriage that was never quite right, from a family that you were never quite suited for, from the pressure of trying to be something you're not." Michael had gone white. "Mother, what the hell?" "Don't be dramatic, Michael. I'm doing you both a favor. Natalie is a sweet girl, but she's not Bradford material. She doesn't understand our world, our expectations, our standards. This marriage was a mistake from the beginning, and I'm giving her an easy way out before things get more complicated." "More complicated?" I'd heard myself say, and my voice sounded strange, distant. "What does that mean?" "Children, dear. You're 30 now. If you were going to give Michael children, proper Bradford heirs, you'd have done it by now. But you're too focused on your little business, too concerned with your career. Michael needs a wife who understands that family comes first, who knows how to be a proper partner for a man of his standing." What Patricia didn't know as she sat there smiling at me with those cold eyes was that I'd spent 3 years documenting every single one of her insults, every dismissive comment, every moment of cruelty, and I was about to turn her dream party into a public reckoning she'd never forget. I'd stood up from the table, carefully placed the divorce papers back in the Tiffany box, and looked at Michael. "Are you going to say something? Are you going to defend me? Tell your mother this is insane?" Michael had looked between us, his face torn. "Mother, this is too far. You can't give someone divorce papers as a birthday gift. That's cruel." "Is it cruel to be honest? Is it cruel to acknowledge that this marriage isn't working and give Natalie an honorable way out?" "This marriage is working fine," Michael had said, but his voice was weak, unconvincing. "Is it, Michael? When's the last time you brought Natalie to a family function without me having to insist? When's the last time you talked about your future together, about children, about building the kind of life a Bradford should have?" I'd waited, hoping Michael would erupt, would tell his mother she was out of line, would defend our marriage with passion and conviction. Instead, he'd just looked miserable and said nothing. "Thank you for dinner, Patricia," I'd said, my voice eerily calm. "And thank you for the gift. It's certainly memorable. I'll see you at the party planning meeting next week." I'd walked out of that dining room, out of that mansion, and driven home alone because Michael had stayed behind, saying he needed to talk to his mother. He'd come home 3 hours later with apologies and excuses, saying his mother was just worried about us, that she didn't mean it, that she'd always been overprotective. "She gave me divorce papers, Michael, as a birthday present, in a Tiffany box. I know it was wrong. I told her that. But she has very specific ideas about what our life should look like. And you have to understand, she's been alone since my father died, and she's anxious about the family legacy." "I don't care about her anxiety, Michael. I care that your mother thinks she can end our marriage with a gift-wrapped legal document. And I care that you sat there for 5 full minutes before you said anything." "What did you want me to do?" "I wanted you to stand up, tell your mother she was completely out of line, and walk out with me, immediately, not stay behind to talk to her for 3 hours while I came home alone on my birthday." He'd had no answer for that. We'd slept in separate rooms that night, and we'd barely spoken in the 3 days since. And now I was sitting at my kitchen counter, looking at that Tiffany box, and making a decision that would change everything. I picked up my phone and called my best friend, Sophie, who'd been my roommate in college and was now a video producer for a documentary company. "I need your help with something," I said, when she answered. "Remember how I told you about Michael's mother and all the stuff she said to me over the years? The classist nightmare mother-in-law? Yes, I remember. Why?" "She gave me divorce papers for my birthday, in a Tiffany box." "She what?" I explained the entire dinner, Patricia's speech about me not being Bradford material, Michael's weak response, everything. "Nat, that's insane. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to plan the most beautiful, elegant, sophisticated 60th birthday party Patricia Bradford has ever seen. And during that party, I'm going to show everyone in her social circle exactly who she really is. How? I've been keeping records. Every insulting comment, every dismissive remark, every moment of cruelty over the past 3 years. Text messages, emails, recorded conversations from family dinners that I took because I thought I was going crazy and needed proof that I wasn't imagining the hostility. I have documentation of everything. You recorded family dinners? Just audio on my phone for the past year. Because Michael kept saying I was being oversensitive, that his mother didn't mean things the way I was taking them. I needed proof for myself that I wasn't making it up. And now I have hours of Patricia insulting me, dismissing me, treating me like I'm not good enough for her son. And you're going to do what with these recordings? You're going to help me turn them into a video presentation, a beautifully edited, artistically crafted slideshow that will play at Patricia's party, showing everyone exactly what kind of person she is. Not a monster, because she's too smart for that, but a woman who spent 3 years systematically trying to break her son's marriage through subtle cruelty. Sophie was quiet for a moment. That's nuclear, Nat. That will destroy her reputation. That will blow up your marriage. My marriage might already be destroyed. Michael had a choice at that dinner. He could have stood up for me, for us. He chose to stay behind and comfort his mother after she tried to end our marriage with a birthday present. So yes, this is nuclear. But if my marriage is going to end anyway, I'm not going quietly. I'm not letting Patricia Bradford write the narrative where I wasn't good enough for her precious son. I'm showing everyone who she really is. When's the party? 2 weeks, Saturday night, 200 guests, all of Lake Forest society, everyone Patricia has spent years impressing with her elegance and sophistication and family values. I'm in, Sophie said. Let's plan the party she'll never forget. What I spent the next 2 weeks creating wasn't just revenge. It was a masterpiece of professional event planning combined with personal vindication. And by the time the night was over, Patricia Bradford would understand that underestimating me was the biggest mistake she'd ever made. The next morning, I had my regular planning meeting with Patricia at her house. I showed up professionally dressed, portfolio in hand, acting like nothing had happened. If Patricia wanted to pretend the divorce papers were just a quirky birthday gift, I could pretend too. Natalie, good morning, Patricia said, greeting me in her sitting room. I trust you've had time to think about what we discussed at dinner. Oh, I've thought about it extensively, I said with a smile. But right now, I'm here to finalize plans for your party. We have 2 weeks, and there's still a lot to coordinate. Patricia looked slightly disappointed that I wasn't engaging with her attempt to discuss the divorce, but she shifted smoothly into party planning mode. Yes, the party. I want to review the final guest list, the menu selections, and the decor scheme. Everything must be absolutely perfect. For the next 2 hours, we went over every detail. Patricia was demanding, but not unreasonable when it came to the actual event planning. She had good taste, clear vision, and she knew what she wanted. Under different circumstances, she would have been a dream client. I've also prepared something special for the evening, I said, as we finished. A multimedia presentation showcasing your life, your accomplishments, your impact on the community. It's customary for milestone birthdays like this. A presentation? Like a slideshow? More sophisticated than that. A professionally produced video with photos, music, testimonials from family and friends. It will play during dinner, giving guests a chance to appreciate your journey while they eat. Very elegant, very moving. Patricia's eyes lit up. This was exactly the kind of tribute she'd want, her life and achievements celebrated in front of everyone who mattered. That sounds perfect. What do you need from me? I'll be reaching out to family and friends for photos and quotes. I'll also need access to your photo albums for childhood and early marriage photos. The more comprehensive we can make this, the more impactful it will be. Of course. I'll have my housekeeper pull together photo albums for you. This is exactly the kind of touch that will make this party memorable. Memorable. Yes, it would definitely be that. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked harder than I'd ever worked on an event. During the day, I coordinated with vendors, confirmed RSVPs, managed the hundreds of details that go into a luxury party for 200 people. At night, I worked with Sophie, going through 3 years of documentation, selecting the most damning examples of Patricia's cruelty, crafting them into a narrative that would be impossible to deny. We had audio of Patricia telling me at Christmas dinner that women from your background often don't understand the importance of family legacy. We had her email suggesting I should consider whether your career ambitions are compatible with being a proper Bradford wife. We had a text message where she told Michael that she's a sweet girl, but breeding tells, and you can't make a silk purse from a sow's ear. That last one was particularly useful because Michael had screenshotted it and sent it to me, frustrated with his mother. He'd meant it as evidence that he saw what she was doing. Instead, it became evidence that he'd seen what she was doing and hadn't stopped it. Sophie edited everything into a 15-minute video that began beautifully, opening with elegant photos of Patricia as a young woman, her wedding to Bradford Sr., the birth of her children. Soft music, heartfelt quotes from family members we'd actually interviewed about her positive qualities. For the first 5 minutes, anyone watching would think it was a lovely tribute. Then the tone shifted. The music changed to something slightly discordant, and the audio clips began. Patricia's voice, crystal clear, saying things she'd said to me or about me over 3 years. Each clip was brief, just 10 to 15 seconds, but devastating in context. And between the clips, photos, me at family events, always slightly apart from the group, me opening the Tiffany box at my birthday dinner, the exact moment when confusion turned to horror on my face. Michael sitting silent while his mother spoke. The final minute returned to elegant photos, these of Michael and me on our wedding day. Happy, in love, full of hope. And then a single title card. After 3 years of trying to be good enough, I've learned that some people will never see your worth. This party is my gift to Patricia Bradford. May she find the elegance and sophistication she's always valued. It was devastating. It was undeniable. And it was playing at her party in front of 200 people who thought Patricia Bradford was the epitome of grace and class. The day of the party, everything went perfectly. The venue, Patricia's Country Club, was transformed into an elegant garden party atmosphere with thousands of flowers, crystal chandeliers, and subtle lighting that made everyone look beautiful. The menu was exquisite, the champagne was expensive, the live band was perfect. Patricia arrived in a designer gown, radiating happiness and pride. This was her night, her celebration, her chance to showcase the Bradford family legacy to everyone who mattered. Michael was there looking uncomfortable. We'd barely spoken in 2 weeks. He knew I was angry about the birthday dinner, but he didn't know what I'd planned. He thought I was just going to plan a nice party and move on, the way I'd moved on from every other insult, every other slight. He was about to learn that I was done moving on. Dinner was served at 8 p.m. 200 guests seated at elegantly decorated tables, eating a meal that had cost more than most people's monthly rent. Patricia was at the head table, glowing, accepting compliments and birthday wishes from everyone who approached. At 8:30, as dessert was being served, the lights dimmed slightly. A screen lowered at the front of the room. Patricia looked delighted, clearly excited for the tribute video she thought was coming. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said into the microphone, my voice calm and professional, "thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate Patricia Bradford's 60th birthday. As part of tonight's celebration, we've prepared a special presentation. Patricia, this is from all of us who've had the privilege of knowing you." The video began. The elegant opening, the beautiful photos, the heartfelt testimonials. Patricia was beaming. Guests were smiling, some getting emotional at the lovely tribute. Then the tone changed, and Patricia's face changed with it. What happened in the next 15 minutes would end my marriage, destroy Patricia's reputation, and teach me that sometimes the most elegant revenge is simply showing people the truth they've been too polite to acknowledge. The first audio clip played, Patricia's voice crystal clear through the country club sound system. Women from your background often don't understand the importance of family legacy. It's not your fault, dear. You simply weren't raised with these values. The room went silent. Every guest stopped eating, stopped talking, stopped moving. 200 pairs of eyes stayed fixed on the screen as the video continued. A photo appeared. Me at last year's Christmas dinner, sitting at the end of the table, visibly uncomfortable. Patricia's voice played over it. Teaching is such noble work, even if it doesn't pay well. Natalie's parents tried their best with what they had. Another clip. State schools serve an important purpose for those who couldn't. Well, you understand. And another. You've always had such an interesting sense of style, dear. Not what I would choose, but then again, we come from different worlds. I watched from my position near the AV booth as Patricia's face cycled through shock, horror, and rage. She stood up from her seat, her mouth opening to say something, but the video kept playing and guests were transfixed. Michael looked like he'd been struck. He was staring at the screen, hearing his mother's voice, saying all the things he'd dismissed as me being oversensitive, now played in front of 200 witnesses who couldn't pretend they weren't hearing what they were hearing. The video showed the text message Patricia had sent Michael. She's a sweet girl, but breeding tells, and you can't make a silk purse from a sow's ear. A collective gasp went through the crowd. That phrase, that particular insult, was so openly classist that even Patricia's most loyal friends couldn't pretend it was anything other than what it was. Then came the audio from my birthday dinner 2 weeks ago. Patricia's voice, smug and satisfied. I'm giving you the gift of freedom from my son. You're not good enough for this family, and it's time you accepted that. The video showed a photo of the Tiffany box sitting on a table, divorce papers visible inside. Then a photo of me at that dinner, the exact moment I'd realized what I was holding, the expression on my face one of pure devastation. Patricia's voice continued. If you were going to give Michael children, proper Bradford heirs, you'd have done it by now, but you're too focused on your little business, too concerned with your career. The final section of the video was the most damaging. It showed a timeline starting from when Michael and I had started dating, with dates and quotes showing a systematic pattern of psychological abuse disguised as polite concern. 3 years of documentation, proving this wasn't occasional thoughtlessness, but deliberate, sustained cruelty. The video ended with wedding photos of Michael and me, genuinely happy, and that final title card. After 3 years of trying to be good enough, I've learned that some people will never see your worth. This party is my gift to Patricia Bradford. May she find the elegance and sophistication she's always valued. The screen went dark, the lights came up, and 200 of Lake Forest's wealthiest, most socially connected people sat in stunned silence, staring at Patricia Bradford like they'd never seen her before. What happened in the next 60 seconds would determine whether I'd destroyed Patricia's reputation or my own, and the first person to speak would set the tone for how everyone else reacted. Patricia found her voice first, standing at the head table with her face purple with rage. "This is slander! This is a violation of privacy! Natalie, you will regret this!" But before she could say more, someone started clapping. Slow, deliberate applause from a table near the back. I turned to see who it was and felt my heart skip. Helen Morrison, Patricia's oldest friend, a woman who'd been at every Bradford family event for decades. "Bravo, Natalie," Helen said, standing. "Bravo for finally showing us what we've all been too polite to acknowledge. Patricia, I've listened to you speak about this girl for 3 years. I've watched you undermine her, dismiss her, treat her like she was contaminating your family. I said nothing because we don't interfere in other people's marriages. But this?" She gestured at the screen. "This isn't motherly concern, This is cruelty." Another woman stood, someone I didn't recognize. I've heard Patricia speak about Natalie at luncheons, at charity events, always with that tone, that implication that Michael had married beneath himself. I thought it was just Patricia being Patricia, a little snobbish, but harmless. But hearing it all together like that, hearing the pattern, there's nothing harmless about it. Michael's aunt, his father's sister, stood up. "Patricia, I've held my tongue because you're family, but someone needs to say this. You've been doing to Natalie exactly what your own mother-in-law did to you when you married Bradford. Do you remember? The comments about your family not being quite established enough? The constant implications that you weren't quite good enough for a Bradford? You swore you'd never do that to anyone, and yet here we are." Patricia's face went from purple to white. That's completely different." "It's not different at all," Michael's aunt continued. "You became exactly what you hated, and you drove your son to choose between his wife and his mother, the same choice Bradford had to make with his own mother. History repeating itself, Patricia, except this time everyone can see it for what it is." People were nodding, murmuring agreement. The social tide was turning, and I watched as Patricia realized she'd lost control of the narrative. In her world, reputation was everything, and her reputation was crumbling in real time. Michael stood up, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Natalie, can we talk? Please?" I picked up the microphone one more time. "I want to be clear about something. I didn't do this to humiliate Patricia for the sake of humiliation. I did this because I spent 3 years being told I wasn't good enough, that I didn't belong, that my background, my education, my family, everything that made me who I am, was somehow inferior. And I watched my husband say nothing, do nothing, while his mother systematically tried to destroy our marriage." I looked directly at Patricia. "You gave me divorce papers as a birthday gift. You told me I wasn't Bradford material. You're right about one thing. I'm not Bradford material. I'm better than that. I don't measure people's worth by their last names or their bank accounts or which schools they attended. I measure people by how they treat others. And by that standard, Patricia, you've been found severely lacking." I set down the microphone and walked toward the exit. I'd planned this moment carefully. My car was already packed, my most important belongings already moved to Sophie's apartment. My lawyer already briefed on the situation. I'd planned for every contingency except one. I hadn't planned for what it would feel like to actually walk away from 3 years of my life. Michael caught up with me in the hallway outside the ballroom. "Natalie, wait, please." "What do you want me to wait for, Michael? Another 3 years of your mother telling me I'm not good enough while you sit there and say nothing? I know I failed you. I know I should have defended you, should have stood up to her. But that video, Natalie, that was nuclear. That was designed to destroy her. That was designed to show the truth. Every single clip in that video was her actual words, her actual actions. I didn't lie. I didn't exaggerate. I just played back what she's been saying to me and about me for 3 years. In front of 200 people, at her birthday party. You've humiliated her in front of everyone who matters in her world. And she tried to end our marriage with a gift-wrapped legal document in front of you at my birthday dinner. Tell me, Michael, which is worse, public humiliation or attempting to destroy someone's marriage? He had no answer for that. We stood in the hallway, the sounds of agitated conversations spilling out from the ballroom, and I saw him really struggle with the question for the first time. "I love you," he said finally. "I know I haven't shown it the way I should have. I know I've been weak when you needed me to be strong, but I do love you, and I don't want our marriage to end like this." "Like what? With me finally standing up for myself? With me finally refusing to accept being treated like I'm not good enough? Michael, your mother gave me divorce papers. She literally tried to end our marriage, and you stayed behind to comfort her. What kind of marriage do we have if that's acceptable to you?" "It's not acceptable. I told her that night that she'd crossed a line, that what she did was unforgivable." "But you told her privately, away from me, in a conversation I wasn't part of. You didn't defend me in the moment, Michael. You froze. And that's the pattern of our entire marriage. Every time your mother attacks me, you freeze. And then later, in private, you tell me you're sorry, that you talked to her, that she didn't mean it. But she did mean it. Every single time. What Michael said next would either save our marriage or end it forever, and I watched his face as he struggled with the choice between the family he was born into and the family we could have built together. "Come home," he said. "Please come home, and we'll figure this out. I'll talk to my mother. I'll set boundaries. You'll talk to your mother. Again, the same thing you've promised a dozen times before. Michael, I don't want you to talk to your mother. I want you to choose, me or her, your wife or the woman who spent 3 years trying to destroy our marriage. One or the other, right now. Not after you think about it. Not after you talk to anyone, right now. That's not fair. She's my mother. And I'm your wife. The woman you promised to love and honor and cherish. The woman you promised to build a life with. But you can't do that while you're still prioritizing your mother's feelings over mine, so choose." I could see the war happening behind his eyes, the lifetime of conditioning, of being Patricia Bradford's son, of understanding that family loyalty meant Bradford family loyalty above all else. Against 3 years of marriage to me, of whatever love he felt, of whatever future we might have had. "I need time," he said. I need to process what happened in there. I need to talk to her. You need time," I repeated. "After 3 years of watching your mother treat me like garbage, after she gave me divorce papers as a birthday present, after everything in that video which was all true, all her actual words, you need more time to decide if you're going to choose your wife over your mother." "Natalie, please be reasonable." "I'm being perfectly reasonable. You're the one who thinks it's reasonable to ask me to wait while you decide if I'm worth defending. I'm done waiting, Michael. I'm done being patient while you work up the courage to stand up to your mother. I'm done being understanding while she systematically tries to destroy me and you do nothing." I pulled off my wedding ring and held it out to him. "Your mother already had divorce papers drawn up. We might as well use them. Have your lawyer contact my lawyer. Sophie has all my contact information." "You're not serious. You're just angry, and you have every right to be, but we can work through this." "I am serious, dead serious. I gave you 3 years to prove that you could be the husband I needed. You failed, not because you're a bad person, but because you're too weak to stand up to your mother, and I can't spend the rest of my life married to someone who will always choose her over me." I dropped the ring into his hand and walked away. Behind me, I heard Michael call my name, but I didn't turn around. I'd planned my exit perfectly. My car was in the parking lot, my bags were already at Sophie's, and I had a lawyer who specialized in divorce cases involving wealthy families. Patricia had given me divorce papers. I was about to use them, just not in the way she'd intended. The next few days were chaos. The video from Patricia's party went viral, not publicly, but within Chicago's social circles. Someone had recorded it on their phone, and by Monday morning, everyone who mattered in Lake Forest had seen it. The responses split along predictable lines. Older money tended to support Patricia, or at least remain diplomatically silent, while younger people, and anyone who'd ever felt judged for their background, celebrated what I'd done. Helen Morrison called me Tuesday morning. "Natalie, dear, I wanted you to know that Patricia has been asked to step down from the charity board. Several members felt that someone who treats her daughter-in-law the way she treated you shouldn't be representing an organization dedicated to helping underprivileged families." "I didn't want her to lose her position." "Yes, you did, and she should. Natalie, I've known Patricia for 30 years. She's always been particular about people's backgrounds, but what she did to you crossed every line. That video was harsh, but it was also true, and sometimes the truth needs to be harsh to be heard." My business took an unexpected hit initially. 3 corporate clients canceled, saying they didn't want to work with someone who would violate trust by recording private conversations. But within a week, I had 5 new clients, all of them people who'd seen the video and wanted to work with someone who doesn't take crap from rich bullies. Michael called every day for a week. I didn't answer. He sent flowers, which I donated to a nursing home. He sent letters, which I gave to my lawyer unopened. He wanted to talk, wanted to explain, wanted another chance. On day 8, Patricia herself showed up at my office. My assistant buzzed me, sounding nervous. "Natalie, there's a Patricia Bradford here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment. Should I tell her you're busy?" I considered it. Refusing to see her would be satisfying in its own way. But I was curious what Patricia possibly had to say after everything that had happened. "Send her in." Patricia walked into my office looking diminished. Her designer suit was as expensive as ever, but she wore it differently now, without the armor of absolute confidence. She sat down across from my desk without being invited. "That was quite a performance at my party," she said. "It wasn't a performance, it was documentation. You humiliated me in front of everyone who matters in my world. You tried to end my marriage with a birthday present. I'd say we're even." Patricia was silent for a moment, studying me with those cold eyes that I'd learned to hate over 3 years. "You're right," she said finally. I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You're right, about all of it. I did try to break up your marriage. I did treat you terribly. I did everything that video showed and worse. Why are you telling me this? Because Michael is miserable. Because my son, who I did all of this to protect, is falling apart. He's not eating, not sleeping, barely functioning. He loves you, Natalie. Despite everything I did to poison your marriage, he loves you. Then he should have defended me. He should have stood up to you years ago. Yes, he should have. I raised him wrong. I raised him to value family loyalty above everything else, and I used that loyalty as a weapon against you. I knew if I pushed hard enough, if I made you uncomfortable enough, eventually you'd leave. And then Michael would be free to marry someone I deemed more suitable. Someone from a wealthy family, someone who went to the right schools, someone like you. Someone easier to control," Patricia admitted. "Because that's what this was really about, Natalie. Not your background, not your education. Control. As long as Michael was married to you, someone who didn't come from my world, someone who didn't understand the importance of the Bradford name and reputation, I was losing control of my son. You made him happy in a way that had nothing to do with me, and I couldn't stand it. What Patricia said next would force me to decide whether she was capable of genuine change or if this was just another manipulation, and my answer would determine not just my future, but Michael's as well. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," Patricia continued. "I'm not asking you to forget what I did. I'm asking you to consider giving Michael another chance, not for my sake, but for his. Why should I? He had 3 years to grow a spine, 3 years to choose me over you. He didn't. Because I taught him not to. Because I raised him to believe that mother knows best, that family loyalty means doing what I want, that questioning me was the same as betraying the family. I broke something in my son, Natalie, and watching him fall apart over losing you has made me realize what I've done. You expect me to believe you've had some kind of epiphany because Michael is sad? I expect you to believe I'm a human being who made terrible mistakes. My mother-in-law did exactly what you saw in that video to me when I married Michael's father. She told me I wasn't good enough, that my family wasn't established enough, that I was marrying above my station. It was torture. And when she finally accepted me, I swore I'd never do that to anyone. But then Michael brought you home, and something in me, some damaged part that I thought I'd healed, it came out. I became her. I did to you what I swore I'd never do to anyone." She pulled something from her purse and set it on my desk. A small velvet box. "What's this?" "Open it." I opened the box to find a simple platinum band with a small diamond, nothing like the elaborate Bradford family jewelry I'd seen Patricia wear. "I don't understand." "That was my original engagement ring. The one Bradford's father gave me before his mother demanded he upgrade to something more suitable for a Bradford bride. I kept it because it represented the moment before everything got complicated, before his mother's judgment, before I learned to care what people thought. I want you to have it. Why? Because you're everything I should have been. Strong enough to stand up for yourself. Brave enough to walk away when you weren't being treated right. Smart enough to document everything, so no one could gaslight you into thinking you were overreacting. You're the woman I should have been when my mother-in-law was doing to me what I did to you. I stared at the ring, this artifact of Patricia's past, and tried to understand what she was really offering. An apology? A bribe? Manipulation disguised as sentiment? I can't accept this, I said, closing the box and pushing it back across the desk. Not because I don't appreciate the gesture, but because a ring doesn't undo 3 years of psychological abuse, and it doesn't change the fact that Michael chose you over me every single time it mattered. What if he chooses differently now? It's too late. I filed for divorce. My lawyer has already been in contact with his. Natalie, please. You wanted me to divorce Michael. You gave me the papers. I'm doing exactly what you wanted, just not for the reasons you wanted. So congratulations, Patricia, you won. You got rid of the daughter-in-law who wasn't good enough for your family. Patricia stood up, leaving the ring box on my desk. I didn't win. I lost everything that mattered. My son won't speak to me. My friends won't return my calls. I've been asked to step down from every charity board I served on, and the one person who might have been able to fix things with Michael, the one person he actually loves, won't give him another chance because of what I did. After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time, looking at that ring box. Part of me wanted to open it again, to look at that simple band and imagine what Patricia's life might have been if she'd stayed strong, if she'd refused to let her mother-in-law break her, if she'd been brave enough to be herself. But I didn't open it, because that wasn't my story. My story was about being strong enough to walk away when I deserved better. My story was about refusing to accept being treated as less than because of my background. My story was about a working-class girl from Ohio who married into wealth and learned that money doesn't make you better than anyone else. It just makes you more comfortable while you're being terrible. Michael showed up at my office 2 days later. My assistant started to turn him away, but I told her to send him in. We needed to have this conversation eventually. Might as well be now. He looked terrible. Patricia was right about that. He'd lost weight, his eyes were shadowed, his clothes were wrinkled. This was not the polished architect I'd married. "I'm not here to ask you to take me back," he said, sitting down in the chair Patricia had occupied 2 days earlier. "I'm here to tell you that you were right about everything." Okay. I was weak. I was a coward. I chose my mother's comfort over your dignity every single time it mattered, and I'm sorry. Not because I want you back, though I do, but because you deserved better, and I failed to give it to you. Thank you for saying that. I've cut off contact with my mother, completely. I told her that what she did to you, what she did to us, was unforgivable. I told her that until she gets serious help for whatever is broken in her that made her think treating you that way was acceptable, I don't want to see her or speak to her. Michael, you don't have to do that for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. Because I looked at myself after that party, after you walked away, and I didn't recognize who I'd become. I'd turned into my mother's son instead of my own person. I'd let her dictate who I could love and how I could love them. And I'm done. Even if you never speak to me again, I'm done being that person. I studied him, trying to determine if this was real change or just temporary guilt. What do you want from me, Michael? Nothing. I don't want anything except for you to know that I'm sorry, that I understand why you left, and that you were right to leave. You deserved a husband who would fight for you, and I wasn't that husband. Maybe someday I'll be the kind of person who can be what someone needs, but right now, I'm just trying to figure out who I am when I'm not trying to please my mother. He stood up to leave, then paused. The divorce papers. My lawyer says you filed using the ones my mother had drawn up. Was that deliberate? Very. A small smile crossed his face, the first genuine expression I'd seen from him. That's actually perfect. Poetic justice. My mother tried to end our marriage with those papers, and you're actually ending it with them. She got what she wanted, just not the way she wanted it. None of us got what we wanted, but maybe that's what we all deserved. After Michael left, I finally opened the ring box Patricia had left. The simple platinum band caught the light, a reminder that once upon a time, before social climbing and family expectations and all the complications of wealth, there had been a young woman who'd said yes to a simple ring and a man she loved. But that young woman had turned into Patricia Bradford, a cautionary tale about what happens when you let other people's judgment matter more than your own values. I wasn't going to become Patricia. I'd made sure of that when I'd shown that video, when I'd walked away from Michael, when I'd refused to accept being treated as less than. 6 months later, the divorce was final. Michael and I split our minimal shared assets amicably. He kept the downtown condo we'd been living in. I bought a small house in a neighborhood I actually liked, far from Lake Forest and the Bradford family world. My business thrived. Turns out, there are a lot of people who want to hire an event planner with a reputation for not taking crap from entitled clients. I specialized in events for self-made successful people, the ones who'd built their own wealth and didn't care about old money rules. I heard through mutual friends that Patricia had started seeing a therapist, that she was actually working on understanding the damage her mother-in-law had done to her and the damage she'd passed on to me. I heard Michael was doing the same, trying to build an identity separate from being Patricia Bradford's son. I hoped they both found what they needed, but I didn't need to be part of their healing process. I'd done my healing by walking away, by refusing to accept being treated as less, then by showing 200 people that sometimes the most elegant revenge is simply showing everyone the truth. My mother-in-law gifted me divorce papers at my birthday party. She thought she was pushing me out of a family I didn't belong in. Instead, she freed me from a family that didn't deserve me. And I made sure her dream party became a nightmare she'd never forget, not through sabotage or pettiness, but through the simple act of showing everyone exactly who she was. If Natalie's story of refusing to accept classist treatment and walking away with dignity resonated with you, hit that like button. My favorite moment was when Patricia's oldest friend started that slow clap and called out the pattern of abuse everyone had been too polite to acknowledge. What was yours? Drop it in the comments. And if you've ever been made to feel like you're not good enough because of your background, remember that your worth isn't determined by someone else's snobbery. Subscribe for more stories about people who chose self-respect over family approval and documented their way to vindication.